listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I am your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Flawless intro. I mean, doesn't seem like we're out of practice at all. We're off to a roaring start. We might even jump directly into a relevant topic as opposed to sidelining over to the new Bluebell. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no. Oh, no.
There had to be something.
Oh, man. That's on me. That's on me, man.
Yeah, well, how you doing, man? Long time no see.
Good. I'm good. We are basking in summer, enjoying summer here in beautiful Lubbock, Texas. You are, of course, in the balmy coast of Corpus Christi. I do have some
Coastal Bend, baby.
As you take a sip of your Dr. Pepper coconut, I do have a Dr. Pepper Zero update for you and the listeners at the end of the podcast. So stay tuned. Probably approximately 120 minutes from now.
2 hours from now. We'll see. We'll see what it
How are
looks
you?
like when we get there. Man, it's I'm good. Oh, I'm older. I celebrated a birthday this week.
Yes. Happy birthday, Spencer.
Just a lot more gray hair. I mean, we've only been gone for 6 weeks. It's been 6 weeks.
I think so.
March 25th. So yeah, almost exactly 6 weeks. It feels like a year ago. We'll talk about everything that has happened since we last recorded, because that's how I started the notes document. Seasons have ended. Baseball, softball, men's and women's basketball, Queen Bees season, the NBA, not quite over, but almost. We're at least one game, if not 2 games out. Or 3? Is it 3?
Yeah, it could be
up to 3 games.
1 to 3. Yes.
1 to 3. Not to mention, maybe the largest college football storyline that just keeps on, the gift that keeps on giving. Brendan Soresby. Because when we last recorded, we were in spring practice, hadn't quite hit the spring game yet. That was on April 17th. And then everything broke. Everything broke. So with that, setting the table, Michael, I would like to touch on all of those things. I don't have a particular order I have to go in. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with baseball, softball, basketball? You want to go chronologically since we last recorded?
Well,
forks that have ended since then?
I think we could. Maybe we save the Sorsby stuff for last. What if we do that?
Everybody just tuned out.
No, we could start there. I'm totally fine with starting there. And
if we start there, we're going to get to like 10:30, 11 o'clock. Like, we've got to do something else now. We got to talk about something else. Whereas if we finish with like, I've only got like 15 minutes left.
Oh, that's smart.
So
maybe we do that.
We'll go with shortest to longest updates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. Yep.
We'll do,
baseball will be quick.
Let's start baseball. Okay.
Okay.
So the baseball season ended in the Big 12 tournament, which is the second straight season this has happened. Since we last recorded, Texas Tech baseball played 8 conference series, and they lost 7 of them. Got swept in 3 of those. They got swept by TCU. They lost a series to Houston. They lost a series to West Virginia. They got swept by Utah, swept by Oklahoma State, lost a series to Baylor, won a series versus BYU, and then lost the final series versus number 25 Cincinnati. I'm sure West Virginia was ranked at the time we played them, maybe even Oklahoma State, but that was the only one that stuck out to me. You snuck in, if you will, to the Big 12 tournament. You were the 9 seed, only to get run ruled in 7 innings, game number 1, to finish your season.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. Baseball was, once the baseball portal opened, you got a very quick entry from Lincoln Garcia. We'll go through the full. No, you know what? We'll do it right now.
Yeah,
the full portal stuff. Garcia was the first to enter and the first to commit. It was, I wouldn't want to use the word tampering lightly, but when you enter the portal and have a immediate commitment announcement, those two things are difficult. But no. The tampering doesn't happen anywhere else besides Lubbock, Texas. But Lincoln Garcia hit the portal and is signed, sealed, delivered to the Longhorns. Other players leaving the program via the transfer portal: left-handed pitcher Jordan Espinoza, junior catcher Davis Rivers. He's going to Louisiana Monroe to play with his brother. So there's that. First base, senior Hollis Porter, junior infielder Luke Orphy, sophomore infielder Tommy Hanger, and senior right-handed pitcher Hyun Han. Those guys, the last update I saw, those were your portal departures. You've got 4 incoming. First baseman from Nichols State, senior Caston Thompson. A junior infielder from South Carolina, KJ Scobie. Senior right-handed pitcher from UNLV, Jace Evangelista. And a junior outfielder, first baseman from Houston, Xavier Perez.
Do you have any strong thoughts on what the baseball team should or shouldn't do during this offseason?
Well,
any personnel changes and or things you would like to address? Staff.
There's a lot of things to get into with baseball. The comments from Tadlock were not endearing, talking about how he thought he could just recruit local guys and be competitive, and how he got emotional. I don't really know. I feel conflicted on that reaction to his statement about how he just hasn't been operating under the NIL rules effectively. I was like, well, no ish, dude. And he's given the impression to me the past couple of seasons that he was just a little too old school to operate in this new world. But he will return as the head coach in 2027. There was some leeway given to the staff in that the new pitching coaches were brought on after the recruiting class had been pieced together. So that they didn't even get a chance to, have input on the guys that were in the bullpen or in the rotation. So, I think, without getting too deep into it, like next year is going to be like, we need to see some kind of direction of improvement, because missing postseason play, and I'm not counting the Big 12 tournament as postseason play, 2 years in a row, 3 of the last 4, it's not a great feeling coming off of what you had done the previous few years under Tadlock. So, that's about it. I don't have I'm not strongly committed. Like he's got to go.
Oh, sure. I didn't think you were.
I probably. if I was paying a lot more attention to baseball this spring, I probably would have been a lot more on board with he's got to go. I just didn't. Honestly, after like the first month of the season, it's like, we're so bad. I don't have the capacity to keep up with this team. It's just, I can't.
You could see the writing on the wall and just chose to. Sometimes you make those choices. Sometimes you make, and I'm not making enough. Right. I'm not making light of this, but sometimes you make choices, better choices for your mental health. And I'm not trying to make a joke or whatever. We'll get to the actual meat of that later. But it's true. There's times where you're just like, I am not. You know what? This isn't fun for me, and I think I'm just going to move on and maybe collect myself back up and try again next February. We'll see. We'll see you at the Diamond next February.
Yep. So, you want to do a quick touch on basketball?
Yes.
We'll go there next.
Are you talking like NBA basketball?
No, I meant men's and women's hoops.
Okay.
I think they were done when we last recorded. They both.
They were. They were
okay.
totally done because I remember talking about it. I've got a thing at the end to kind of wrap all this up.
Okay.
The common theme that you'll see as we kind of go through is a lot of our beloved teams over the last year have had just absolutely devastating ends to their season. And so let's just let the hits keep rolling. You want to head over to softball?
The lone bright spot in the spring sports season. No, I don't mean that because track was doing really well too. But like if you look at across the board, generally the Texas Tech athletics department spring could have gone much better, or couldn't have gone much worse. Bright spot, softball. Absolutely. Let's talk about this. So when we last recorded 6 weeks ago, they were in the middle of their regular season. To finish out that regular season, they swept Iowa State, swept BYU. All 6 of those games were decided by a run rule. They won the series versus Utah. They swept number 24 Arizona State, and they won the series versus Baylor. So not even counting the non-conference, you lost 2 games in a 3, 6, 9, 15 game spread of conference games, and run ruled at least 6 of those. I didn't count any of the other games. You got into the Big 12 tournament. You ran through that until the final, where you lost to Arizona State. I think it was 4-0. And eye-opening, like, this is not the time to be losing your offense. But you were seated high enough to host a regional, and you went 3-0 in your regional. You ran through. You swept your regional. You beat Marist. Saying you won all 3 games doesn't mean it was easy. Game 2 versus Ole Miss had probably the most unlikely comeback of college softball postseason history. No team until this game had come back from 8 runs down. Texas Tech was down 8 runs with 1 out to go in the 7th inning, scored 8 runs to force extras, and then walked it off in the 8th. Unbelievable. And then you got to rematch with Ole Miss after they fought back through the loser side of the bracket in the regional, and then you run ruled them in the final to make it to a super. You were matched up with the Florida Gators in Gainesville. You went out there. You won game 1, 10-8. It was a very pucker factor game because you got up and then you allowed the Gators to chip their way back into it, tied it, and then you put up some runs late. The game winner came from Mia Williams, Florida transfer. to win game 1. Game 2, very ugly affair. You lost that one 10-2. Going into Sunday, game 3 is a winner take all, going to the Women's College World Series if you were to win this one. And you hammered the Gators. You beat them 16-7. You run ruled them. That was Florida's first run rule defeat in at least the Supers, if not even all of postseason play. And they had never lost an elimination game at home before. So not only did you defeat them, you embarrassed them. You hurt their feelings so badly that they refused to come out and shake hands after the game. Some people would say, oh, but they're just celebrating the win of the whatever. Many other game Supers ending celebrations ended with the teams shaking hands. There's a lot said about how they treated Mia Williams in her return. That no, certainly not. They weren't intentionally hitting her 5 times on the weekend when I think Florida pitchers had hit 8 batters all season. But yet Mia Williams got hit 5 times. Oh, but she crowds the plate, Michael. Except when you present the Gators fans with photographic evidence of where she stands, middle back of the box, it's like, she's not crowding the plate. They were throwing inside to her.
I forgot what the stat was, but I think every game prior to that, she was collectively hit less than she was that weekend.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the number was. I want to think it was 3, but I can't remember exactly what it was.
It was, yeah, I don't know if I mix those numbers up, but the Florida pitching staff had hit batters fewer times than they hit Mia Williams at all weekend. She was hit more times than she had been hit all season that weekend. Things got wonky in the stands. Her dad was ejected and ultimately let back in to the stadium in game 1. Wild. But you made it to Oklahoma City, the Women's College World Series for the 2nd straight year after never winning even a regional, back-to-back appearances in the World Series. You won game 1 versus Mississippi State, a run rule. You lost game 2 versus Tennessee, 2-1 in 9 innings. So you went to extras there and lost a 1-run game. So you dropped to the losers bracket. You won game 3 versus the 8 seed UCLA in 9 innings, 1-run game. You beat them 8-7, eliminating them. You then got to match up with the number 1 seed Alabama, again in an elimination game. You ended up beating them 5-4 in that. Well, sorry. It was an elimination game for you. You had to beat them twice to make it to the finals. Mia Williams and that call from the play-by-play guy, whoever's doing it, she hits the walk-off home run to force a final elimination game 5 in that side of the bracket. His call was something like, Mia Williams hits it, see you later, see you in 30 minutes. Basically, once they got off the field, reset everything, and got back on for the doubleheader. Game 5, the double elimination game for both you and Alabama, you ended up beating them 2-0 to get to your 2nd straight College World Series final. So from the regional to the finals, you faced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different SEC teams. You eliminated 4 of them before you matched up with the Texas Longhorns, who would have been your 6th SEC opponent. 2nd straight season where the finals has been a Texas Tech affair. But similar result to last season. Longhorns beat you. Last season, it was very much you put Niger Kennedy out on the mound. You played small ball and you just rode whatever endurance she had for you. When you lost that series, you were like, man, we got to get some help for Niger. We got to find some offense. this season with Caitlin Terry, with Samantha Lincoln, it felt like you had some help there. Your pitching did take a step backwards in terms of like you gave up more runs, more home runs. And it wasn't just, Terry, it was everybody. So I don't want to like point to like, oh, the ball was different. There were juiced balls or whatever. But you end up losing both these games to Texas, 7-3 in game 1, 4-1 in game 2. So you finish as the national runner-up for the second straight season. Your RPI to finish the season led to you being an 11 seed. Apparently there's enough people in the softball world that were unhappy with how you built your roster that they were canceling games on you, and you're having to scramble to reschedule things. The broadcast teams from the regionals all the way through the finals could not let it go that Texas Tech spent in the portal. They built a roster. They bought a roster. They had so many different transfers. Wherein they neglected to provide that same context for any other team. Well, these are how teams are built these days. And when you are left with very few players in your roster, when Glasgow was hired and the last staff was let go, you had to bring in a large number of it's just how it works out. And I would say unfortunate, but making it to the finals 2 years in a row is not unfortunate. Not winning one of those times is unfortunate, and losing to the Longhorns twice sucks.
Yes.
But very proud of this team and their grit and their tenacity to be on the brink of elimination, and just in a bad way, so much through the postseason. Going back to the second game of the regional when you were down 8 runs to Ole Miss, to come back to win that game, and then to run rule Ole Miss to win your regional, to lose game 2 and the super regional, to come back and just hammer the Gators to win the supers to get you to the World Series, to lose to Tennessee in game 2 in Oklahoma City, and then fight your way back from the losers bracket all the way to the finals. It says a lot about this team, the staff, the players, the buy-in. And I'm not talking about money-wise. I'm talking about their commitment to the team, to the program, to each other. It was so much fun. This is year 2 for me following softball, and it is a blast. It's been this is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong year 2 fan as well, and I can't remember. I must have been out of town. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think I got to watch any of the Florida series, but I got to watch most of everything past that. I unfortunately missed the great comeback versus Mississippi State, but just really impressed with what Terry was able to do. For the most part, there, of course, she struggled here and there, but don't we all? And Mia Williams coming up, and just what they were able to do. Maya Davis, really cool to see Glasgow talk about her and what she means to him, and that she came to Texas Tech with him, and how hard it's going to be for him to fill out the lineup next year and not have her name in it. Just a lot of cool moments from him overall. You kind of got to see the fire in him, which he hides very well in press conferences. He's super complimentary of the other teams and the other players, and doesn't really say anything incendiary, but obviously is the type of coach who will get in your face and question why you did something the way you did, or suggest another way to do it. But the players respond to it, and the players seem to appreciate that. And he mentioned something that you alluded to with the buy-in. He even said outright, up until I think it was the week of the Super Regional, around that time, they had struggled a little bit to really be a cohesive team, to kind of get to that point as a team that you would expect and hope to see. With, I'm sure that has a lot to do with players coming from all sorts of different places across the country. But he said that they did get to that point, and it's one of the closest teams he's coached. And I do like to see that. I know it's got to be hard to walk into a dugout and, most of the faces you see are new, or at least new to you. And if you're a player, most of the faces around you are also new. So it would take a while for that to kind of gel. But I was very proud of this team as well. And you hit it. It stinks to lose to the Longhorns. It doesn't matter what it is, especially in those two games. The Longhorns truly dominated. They were better from the mound. They were better from the field. They were better behind the plate. It wasn't like we just needed a couple of things to go our way. Well, we could have had, we needed more than a couple, I think, to go our way in those two games.
They were better at the plate, but I think that had to do with
defensive struggles,
being better on the mound. And what I mean by that, like, so many of Texas's hits outside of their first baseman that was just mashing the ball, so many of their hits were weak ground balls that like found space. Whereas a lot of your contact was hard hit, but at somebody. And I always that. And when you're seeing a lot of like shoestring, like heroic tackles required in a football game to keep somebody from breaking free, like I remember talking to my brother at the beginning of the Big 12 title game where you had nearly broken a lot of big plays, but there's a BYU player that made a last, saving effort dive and tackle. Like, one of those is going to break. Like, they can only do that for so long. You can only mash the ball so hard at somebody for so long before you're going to find space. Like, eventually those things kind of even out. And it didn't. In either game. No, for the football game ended up working out. For the softball game series, it did not. But anyways, so yeah, to your point, it wasn't fluky. It wasn't that like you beat yourself up. There were things you could have done better, but the Longhorns were better in that series, and they won. They deserved it, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but I guess I just hate losing to the Longhorns. Sucks. So same thing as happening in baseball. The softball transfer portal is open. We've had 5 players from the roster announce they're coming back. Excuse me. Lagi Quiroga, Mia Williams, Taylor Panel, or is it? Yeah. Caitlin Terry and Jazzy Burns. They're all coming back, which is fantastic. That's a core to build around. Absolutely. You may have picked up, there have been a couple of high name players, one from Florida State, one from Oklahoma. I haven't seen official announcements that they've announced a commitment, but they are tied to your program or to Texas. And then you've had a handful of players elect to hit the portal to find a new place to play. Pitcher Samantha Lincoln, Michaela Garcia, Mia Richards, Simone Edge, and Brianna Henson. And then you've got 3 players that have exhausted their eligibility. At least 3 players: Nigeri Kennedy, Jackie Liz, Maya Davis. We've seen Jackie Liz already suit up for her professional team, as well as your assistant coach. They're both on the same professional team, which I think is fun. I think Nigel was still working through like a contract thing before she was going to join that club. But I'm going to miss Nigel Kennedy. 2 years at Texas Tech feels like it was a long time, but also just a blip. Unbelievable impact and just what she's done for the program, for the sport even. in such a short amount of time for Texas Tech, and it's unbelievable. And her time's already over. But like I said, the players that have announced they're returning, I think, is a fantastic group to build around. And I'm excited already for next season, what that may look like.
Yeah, and a lot of folks will disregard why Kennedy came to Texas Tech or whatever, but I still think it was a chance. She took a chance. Yes, that chance came with some benefits, but what's the point of that if you're going to end up, third or fourth in your conference your last 2 years of eligibility and, barely make the playoffs or, duck out in the super regional embarrassingly or something. I mean, she made it to the College World Series, to the finals. Both seasons here. She trusted in what Glasgow was trying to do. She trusted her teammates. She trusted that Texas Tech was the place for her, and this was a place that was going to take softball seriously and make a run for it. So any future success that this program may or may not have, a lot of it is due to her deciding to come to Texas Tech. Just building around her and, what she was able to do as a player and as a teammate and buy in herself. And that just kind of proved that, yeah, Texas Tech can compete and Texas Tech can be a hopefully perennial national name in the conversation when it comes to collegiate softball. But like I said, a lot of it is because of her taking a chance on us. And yes, there were reasons, but people want to win. They don't want to go somewhere and, potentially make a lot of money, but then not win. Most athletes are not wired that way. The money's kind of like, all right, that's great, but how are we going to do? What can we get a championship? Can we finish in the top of the conference? Can we host a regional? Can we this? Can we that? And they did all of those things, and at a place that it had not been done before, not even close.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it's not like she was overpaid. When you talk about like what she was able to deliver her value, to take a team that had never made it past a regional or to a regional all the way to the finals, essentially by herself last season. And then all of the attention, the PR value, the ROI, whatever you want to call it, like, yeah, worth it.
Yep. And best of luck.
Yeah. Sorry, where are you going to go next?
Well, have we put it off long enough? Should we? I'm thinking we should hit the Sorsby stuff. I think we should do it, and then we can finish. I've got some random updates, and yeah, the rest of it's kind of a hodgepodge of stuff. So,
well, if you've lasted with us this long,
yeah, we are 35 minutes in, and we're just now talking Brendan Soresby. You may not have even seen this yet, but before we recorded, President Skuvanek sent out another letter via email to all of us at 8:30 p.m. with clarifications. We've heard from Kirby Hocutt since the injunction was announced on Monday. I think Hocutt's statement was yesterday, which was Wednesday this week. The letter from Skovanec today also had a video link, which I saw kind of popping up on Twitter right as we were starting to record, so I have not watched it yet, but it's apparently a 22-minute long round table with 5 people. I couldn't even tell who they all were yet. It was Gio and McGuire and Hocutt, but
and there's somebody else on the end I didn't recognize.
Right. And so they're all obviously talking about this situation, and boy, there's a lot of things to cover. So where would you care to begin?
All right. Being that this is not
and you and I have not talked about this, by the way, at all. This is all this is happening live.
Assuming that this will be mainly an internal audience, that we're talking to Red Raiders here, also because this is Thursday night, coming after the June 8th announcement of the injunction. Like, we're not breaking any news here. We're not even giving you instant reaction. This is 4 days ago now. It's 4 days old. I wrote out the timeline mainly just for my benefit. Michael, if you want to, if we want to like skip through it real quick and hit some of the high points we can. But essentially, where I would want to start is news broke Monday, June 8th about the Ken Curry judgment that he was granting the temporary injunction in favor of Brendan Soresby that would, in essence, allow him to be eligible for the 2026 season. And the initial reporting of it is, I think, what got every Red Raider drawn off sides or engaged into the discourse. Because from the get-go, it was a Lubbock judge, a Texas Tech judge, granted Sorsby this injunction. Again, you and I know differently. Everybody that's watching this knows differently. That like that's not the case. This was an impartial judge that had been reassigned after the initial guy recused himself. I think I mean, I don't know where you want to go from here, because you included a link to the summary of the verdict from the Cincinnati.com article. I read that. I actually thought it was really fair, especially coming from a Cincinnati source. There's been a great deal of outcry and outrage and gnashing of teeth and chest beating and pearl clutching, and I don't even know where to start. But essentially, outside of the 2-game suspension, which was set forward by Sorsby and his representation, he will be eligible to play in the final 10 games of the season, regular season, and then anything in the postseason, notwithstanding some kind of sanction or something else from the Big 12, which we'll get to in a second. So
yeah, there are. I think what I read with some of the legal analysis by lawyers, definitely not by me, but I think what helped his case was how they presented it. He just had some really good lawyers, and they presented a case showing how much he would have to lose as if he were to follow the order from the NCAA, how it could affect his mental health, which has been diagnosed and I believe accurate. You know, if you're making that many bets, hey, I'm, like I said, not a lawyer and not a therapist or any sort of person who should be making these judgments, but that does sound like an addiction to me. I could absolutely believe that. A clinical one that's can be diagnosed and hopefully helped through multiple different ways. But I think what helped them was, in their defense, they weren't really trying to hide the fact that he did anything. They were showing that, yes, of course he did, and this is why, and this injunction is to prevent the NCAA from causing even more harm to him. The financial aspect of it is interesting because I don't know what that means if Texas Tech decides, you know what, this isn't worth it. Could he then sue Texas Tech because they are essentially violating the injunction? We don't know. That's possible, but not a lawyer.
It does seem like that was like a likely defense of like Texas Tech, like, hey, we are just as much held to this temporary injunction as the rest of the schedule, and that like we can't just not play him, because that would be in opposition to this court ruling. But I think what this Cincinnati.com article, the Inquirer, there was a part in it that I thought was eye-opening, and like it really kind of helps set the stage of like, this is not a judge ruling in favor of Sorsby because of some antiquated rules on gambling or integrity of the game. It was the merits of a temporary injunction filing, which Sorsby's representation presented evidence of all three things: irreparable injury, probable right to relief on the merits, and balance of hardships. And they said the judge was able to check all three. Whereas the NCAA's case didn't refute those things. It was, he broke the rules and he should be ineligible. Well, be that as it may, that is not the basis of a temporary injunction hearing. And I think the other thing that I've seen brought up is like, and it may even be in this article, is that it's the blanket restrictions on athletes that don't apply equally to coaches, administrators, and boosters they're legally vulnerable. We've seen the connection back to the Indiana volleyball coach, where he bet hundreds of thousands of dollars on his own team in a sense that you would actually consider against the integrity of the game. He was suspended 30% of a season. If those two things don't, like, those are not the same, right? What Sorsby was involved in and what this volleyball coach was, like, very different things. But the ruling, the NCAA ruling, punishment or a discipline for the coach was different from the player. That, I think, is one of the things brought up by Sorsby's representation that the NCAA didn't have an adequate justification for. The other thing, I mean, I don't know about you. I'm not really going to wade into the morality of wagering at all, or trying to touch on, every aspect of the sport is tied into gambling and these markets, and even the NCAA is making money off of it. Like, all of that aside, like, that's not what was even called into question here. Now, that's been a lot of things that have been brought up secondarily, but that wasn't heard as part of the case on June 1st. So from here, there's obviously the NCAA has announced or indicated they're going to appeal this. I think I've seen, even from actual legal experts, in a expedited appeals process, that it wouldn't even come up again until at least most of the way through the 2026 season, if not afterwards anyways. The trial date is set for February 8th, 2027. So 2 weeks after the national championship game. And that will determine whether or not he was actually eligible to participate this season. Which brings into question, okay, if he plays in the 10 plus games of the 2026 season, and then in February of 2027 is ruled that, oh, you know what, he actually shouldn't have played, what happens then? Does Texas Tech vacate all their wins, their stats, records?
I have an answer on that. There was a there was an article, again, from swlaw.com claiming that, and this is, they looked at the injunction ruling and analyzed it. And one of the main things they noticed was, obviously everything you'd already talked about, but I'm going to read this quote. What makes the order structurally unusual, however, is its second operative paragraph. In addition to prohibiting the NCAA from blocking Sorsby's participation, the order expressly enjoins the NCAA from enforcing its bylaw 12.9.4.2, the rule of restitution, against the applicant, Texas Tech, any affiliate of Texas Tech, any university that competes against Texas Tech during the 2026 college football season, or any affiliate of any such university for complying with and relying on this order. The breadth of that language has been largely overlooked. It deserves sustained analysis. And so they go on, end quote, sorry. So they go on to say that throwing that in there means that even if he is deemed ineligible when all this is said and done, Texas Tech's games and everyone who played Texas Tech, that will not be used against them. The NCAA will not enforce its bylaw against anyone who played Texas against them, or even Sorsby as the applicant. So if he made some records, if he won an award or whatever, that I don't think they can take any of that away. And that was something that they feel was overlooked in a lot of this and could be even more monumental than what they were able to accomplish. Getting the judge to rule in their favor, kind of going back to that, it was proving their case, which you've already covered some of it, but then also implementing their own guidelines and guardrails and things that Sorsby will have to deal with, including, I think he's got his devices monitored and he has to meet with people. And the letter from Skuvenek today said that, he's going to have clinical treatment, including outpatient care, individual group therapy, active device monitoring, betting sites blocked across all devices, financial custodian, periodic compliance checks. So for those of you rooting for Texas Tech's demise, this may not be over. During one of those compliance checks, he could possibly fail something. Mm-hmm. And if that is presented to the judge, and or I don't know what would happen then, but if that is presented as it should be and made known to the powers that be, then that NCAA or that injunction may be rescinded, and then we're back to where we were. But I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this overall, and I'll go first. But now that this has all happened, because when it first was announced, which was interesting timing, it was the Monday after the spring game. So Monday after the spring game, all of a sudden, Sorsby's going to rehab. He's admitted to betting. Oh my gosh. And you're just learning things over and over. And so at that moment, I just wrote it off. I thought, well, that's what, sorry, that stinks for the NIL guys who have so much money that they can throw it at a football player. But there goes your investment. Stinks for you guys, stinks for Sorsby, stinks for Tech, but that's that. And then it just kept going and wouldn't die. And, everybody was up in arms about the judge, the district judge, of course, being from here, and had pictures of him with Raider Red and all that. And he recused himself, as he should have, pulled a guy out of retirement, all of that. I still just was barely paying attention, thinking, yeah, sure. NCAA makes their ruling that, of course, he's ineligible. I'm like, yep, okay, that sounds right. Injunction goes into deliberation. Well, okay. And then it gets announced that he's going to be granted the injunction, and that just floored me. I was pretty shocked by that. There are some people on Twitter who would refuse to ever be wrong about anything. They're, I saw it coming a mile away. And I mean, speaking of, golly, there's some of our fans on Twitter are tough hangs. They are just not letting this go and going down with the ship. And
anytime in a game day thread, you know that we can be a tough hang.
It's basically a game day thread. It's what we see in a game day thread, except everyone's seeing it now.
Everybody's involved. Yep. Welcome.
Yeah. Everyone's getting that same fiery wrath that frankly to me isn't warranted. I mean, let Texas Tech fight their own battles. If you don't have to do it, John Q 69_3 with the cactus in your emoji, you don't have to do that. You can just go about your day if you want. But anyway, all that to say, I had just kind of put it out of sight, out of mind. And then when it was forced back into my field of view, and it was no longer something I could ignore, I felt like I then had to have an opinion on it. And honestly, right now, my opinion is I wish he would leave. I wish he would, by his own, decision, just say, okay, obviously this is a little more than probably any of us bargained for. I mean, we've got the president sending out letters to all the alumni. We've got a round table going on. We've got Hokut sending out statements. McGuire's getting asked questions and or denying to be asked questions, depending on who you listen to at a Houston alumni function. We've got Ken Paxton involved, for God's sakes. We've got Cody Campbell going on podcasts all over the place, and it's insane. This is June. What's it gonna be like when Houston comes to Lubbock on a Friday night? And everyone already hates that already because Friday Night Lights and whatnot. And there's a chance that if Texas Tech decides to play Brendan Soresby, they could that night, having served his 2-game suspension. I hate it. I hate everything about it.
Same.
I hate it for the kid. I have sympathy for him because I said it earlier. I truly believe he had or has an addiction to this. And that's by design. These things are designed to get you addicted. Well, he's only making $1 bets. Yeah, but he made 90,000 of them. I mean, that's the point. That's what they're trying to get across is it reaches something in your brain that you can't turn off without a lot of help. I love that Tech is helping him. I love that they're being very vocal about what they're doing. I think that is the right move. I do also question if putting him as basically the pariah of college football for the last year of his career is the best thing for his mental health. If we're truly going to be concerned about people's mental health, these same people that are probably defending this on Twitter, I guarantee, have some other thoughts about mental health that they're not willing to voice at this moment. I hope the people that are triumphant and as excited about getting Sorsby the help that he needs, that I believe you and I both agree that he needs and should get, I hope they're dealing with their loved ones in that same way and in their personal lives, not just poo-pooing how someone might feel and looking down on someone that they know personally who has gone to therapy or has gone to counseling or has an issue. Because I know for a fact, seeing some of these people in these game day threads and these other places, they've said some things that they can't really take back. But when it comes to the quarterback transfer who is yet to take a snap for you, oh yeah, all about mental health. You got to do what's best. Got to do what's best for you. Okay, well, apply that to your life. Apply that to your brother, to your son, to your dad, to your mom. Make sure that you're using that same logic, not just to the quarterback that donors you don't know paid $5 million to be here. End of rant. Sorry, I'll let you talk for a while now.
There's so much there like that I want to respond to or react to. I'm not even sure where to start. I have an interesting perspective, and that I'm married to a professional counselor. So when I brought up the addiction side, she's like, well, tell me more about what they're reporting on. I was like, so I try to strip all of my judgment out of it. I was like, well, he was doing these things. He was betting on this, and like talking about like it wasn't massive amounts of money. It was a bunch of little things, but across wide gamut of sports and activity. She's like, that all sounds like behaviors of an addict. That like you're so enmeshed into that world that you are looking for anything to be involved in. Which was it was in opposition to how I initially felt when it came out. You know, when initially, you know, they said he was entering treatment for an addiction. I was pessimistic. I was cynical about it. I was like, that feels like a PR move. And that's probably because of my profession. I work in public relations, and it's like, if you're gonna try to have any kind of defense here, this felt like a very swift and in the right direction. Like, you can't touch me because I'm trying to work on myself. I think the evidence that has been uncovered since then would go to show that this would be a actual addiction. And then it came out that he was diagnosed with it, which my wife said that happens. You can get that. The anxiety disorder, she said, was more on the lower hurdle. It wasn't like even like a true anxiety disorder. It was like it was like the gateway to anxiety disorder in terms of like the level of diagnoses, if that makes sense. Like if there's a gradient or a spectrum, this is like the low end. Anyways, so there's that. My most activity this week, at least early on, was trying to correct factual inaccuracies that was being reported because they were just burying tech. And at this point, 4 days in, it's like, no matter what happens this fall, Tech is going to lose. Right? If Texas Tech follows the temporary injunction and he plays for Texas Tech, it may be calm in July and August. But as the season gets closer and as his suspension is served and he is able to come back, it's going to ramp all right back up. If something like, if Texas Tech is somehow able to legally separate themselves from Brendan Soresby, then it's going to be twisted and reported like, oh, they're doing this because they faced so much public pressure and outcry that they couldn't not do something. They were forced into this. And they're only doing it because literally everybody was pointing out how bad and evil this was. Or how hypocritical it seems to want to support him in the face of all this until they just felt the heat was too hot and they just like, no, you know what? No more. So like, there's literally nothing that Texas Tech can do in supporting Brendan as an individual before supporting him as a player, or whatever, that will do any kind of positive for Texas Tech. You're doing it now. You're doing everything right now and absolutely being buried. And literally you've done nothing wrong. The university's done nothing wrong. You've supported the player. You supported the individual. You provided the resources that somebody needing help needs. You've given verbal support that we are behind him and we are going to do everything we can for the individual, the person. I think it was in Hokut's, one of Hokut's statements, basically saying support for the individual was not engineered for his eligibility or something. I'm mixing that up, but essentially, like, we're doing what we can for him as a person, not for him as a player. Yeah, to what you said, the cleanest possible outcome would be for Brendan Soresby to come back in the next couple of days and, you know what, I cannot understate, or I can't say enough how much the support of Texas Tech has meant. But at this time, I'm going to withdraw from the university, submit my name to the NFL's supplemental draft, and just move on. Because that way, like, you're not tied up in any kind of weird litigation or sanctions within the conference, which may be a thing coming up. There was a executive committee meeting today, an emergency board meeting called. They're going to come back to this on Monday. Your point about Ken Paxton being involved, some countersuing being prepared if the Big 12 is going to move forward with some kind of sanction. I don't know what I want, because when he was ruled ineligible, or when it came out that he was entering treatment for betting on your own team back in, whatever year it was for Indiana, like you, I said, okay, well, he's gone. He's done. It's unfortunate. I was upset at that point. It's like, why didn't Texas Tech do, better research and vetting of this individual? Did they know? Who knew? Who turned him in? Depending on where you're getting your information and what all you believe, like Cincinnati knew about it, but they weren't the ones that turned him in to the NCAA. That was the actual betting platform.
Possibly wasn't. I feel like the FBI was involved at some point too.
Yeah,
just for the sheer volume of bets he was making, I think that flagged something federally, but I'm not positive about that. I remember reading that a few weeks ago, so it just kind of escaped me. Yep, sorry.
And then to the other point, like you mentioned, all the things that are set up as stipulations in this temporary injunction. He's going to continue to attend his outpatient individual and group therapy sessions, which is something that my wife does. Not for this individual. Obviously, we're not anywhere near Lubbock anymore. He's going to have, he's got that financial custodian. I think it was McGuire. I mentioned it, like, literally, like, he has no access to his own funds. He has to have permission, or somebody like has to be there to complete purchases for things, groceries, subscription services. Like, if he wants to, go buy ESPN Plus or something, he's got to have somebody to sign off on that. All of his devices are monitored. So all of the guardrails are there to help support him in his recovery. But to your point, Michael, we could have all these things up and he could get popped again because he is in recovery. And how many times have we seen or heard of somebody going through recovery have a relapse? And it's just part of the process. Not that you have to have one, but like, it's not uncommon for somebody in recovery to have a slip up, a relapse. And if this individual, Sorsby, has a relapse, it will likely be flagged and caught, and probably the temporary injunction revoked, which is fair in my mind, right? Like, you're given this chance, and it's like, if you do everything right, then we'll reconvene and do like the full thing after the season. But until then, we're going to make sure that you're not lost this season while we're trying to figure out the court side of it. But you have to do everything right. I'm conceding that, like, it's a possibility, a real possibility, that he could still be in the throes of his addiction and have a relapse and not play. And then, like, all of this is moot again. So, like, I don't wish that. And I don't know if I really wish for him to withdraw from the university and and apply for this supplemental draft. I think competitively, you can make the case that like Texas Tech probably is going to be just fine without him. You may not be top tier, your ceiling may not be as high. But that really shouldn't be the genesis for any of this conversation. Maybe it's me being selfish, and if you want to, put a filter on your screen right now and change my shirt color to pink and call me a pink raider, that like I don't wish this kind of attention on Texas Tech, and I don't like it was kind of I wouldn't say fun, but like very much like took on like let's like I'm fiercely defensive of my university and my alma mater, and like these things that you're saying are not true, and like that absolutely like that's damaging what you're doing. It's been 4 days, and it's not only hasn't gotten better, it's gotten exponentially worse. And it's like eye-opening, like no matter what you do or say, you're not changing anybody's mind. Except maybe like it's showing that like if you would dig your heels and entrench and try to set up a sound and just defense here, that like you're going to be buried even harder. So it's like there's no winning here. And so maybe my selfish desire is like I don't really want to be part of this long term. And again, it's not because I want to just like distance myself from Sorsby. It's like, and all of this attention based on betting and the downfall of the sport and all that kind of stuff, which missed me with that. All right. Like even the NCAA acknowledged that like the activity he was engaged in did not call into question the integrity of the game. So like I'm yes, I know there's a very fine line and probably a whole spectrum of gray area that he was operating in. But for me, very clearly different from somebody that was using insider information to try to change outcomes of games or to make some kind of huge windfall of cash. Like that's not what he was doing. I do acknowledge that like maybe the player props that he was supposedly involved in like toe right up to that line. Even then I was like, I everything else just is a manifestation. I think an addict's behavior. So I don't know what he wants. If Brendan Soresby's like, you know what, like I'm here for this fight, and we're going to do everything we can to be on our best behavior, and we're going to go out there and compete as we always intended to, and go after another Big 12 title and make a run in the playoffs if we can. I don't know what he wants. He has not, as of yet, been made available. I don't know if that will come, or if that stance is even still been decided yet. Do you want to point out that there are some comments from McGuire's remarks to the Houston Touchdown Club? Some were talking about like, you know, how can you be defending him and saying like, well, at least it wasn't murder. Like, okay, I don't want to touch that aspect of it. But McGuire also said those thinking that he's just going to walk in and be the starter game 3, his first game back, would be a stretch. That he's recovering from an addiction and what he's been through is serious. So there's also that aspect of it. Like, where's he at mentally? Like he's been away from the team for 6 weeks. Granted, he hasn't missed anything but some off-season workouts, and team bonding opportunities and activities, which, don't get me wrong, those are valuable, but he hasn't missed practice. So I don't know, man. I'm all over the place. I don't really know how I feel about it.
Yeah. I think everybody is. And that was one of the best things that Hokut said in his statement. Was he said that the system we're operating within is binary, but the situation is not. And I think that's what you and I are trying to express is there's gray here, there's nuance here. I know that a lot of people don't think so. That's fine. They can think that too. Texas Tech had planned on and was going to enforce the ban. There's lightning and thunder going on outside, so hope I don't lose you. It's great. It's actually, it's really awesome. But Texas Tech was going to enforce the ban that NCAA handed down, and then the judge overruled it with the injunction. So they are kind of forced to enforce the injunction despite not filing it themselves. I'm not going to be naive and think that they didn't know what they were getting into and what the outcome could possibly be and what that would mean for Texas Tech and how them and Sorsby are linked forever until at least February with whatever they decide to do. But that's where we are. And I get it. If it was a quarterback at Oklahoma State that had transferred and had been betting like crazy for 3 years, I would not be looking into it this much. And I would just immediately write that person off and think, man, there's no way this person should be playing. But when you look into it, and you don't have to like it, because I kind of don't like it. I don't like that the injunction was able to, be forced. It's kind of chicken-esque to me to kind of put it lightly. But it's a valid argument. And since we recorded, I actually sat on a jury, first time ever. And it was a really small claims court thing. And a business owner was running a mower, and the plaintiff, or I don't even know the words, the one who filed the small case suit, claimed that the mower damaged their property. And so we sat through the whole thing. It was really small claims court, and the question wasn't that. This was the unfortunate part, because we were forced to rule against what we thought happened as jurors, because the question was, do you think that mower damaged that person's property? Because all 6 of us thought, yes, it did. But the question was the person running can you prove, or has the plaintiff proven that the person running the mower was negligent? That was the question. That was what we were forced to answer. And the answer was no. They hadn't. They represented themselves in court. They didn't even have a lawyer. The business owner did have a lawyer who forced that question onto our sheet. And so that's kind of a very small potatoes version of what just happened at the injunction. The question wasn't, well, did he gamble, and do you think the gambling was wrong? It was a completely different conversation that a lot of these people online are not looking into, and they're not going to take the time to research it and understand it. And it is frustrating that it did not go the way probably a lot of people thought it would.
Yeah, I think most people are looking for the quick, sensational soundbite, and looking to dunk. Did you read this long tweet statement from Nate Longshore?
I did. I think I had seen that independent of when you had it in there.
But yeah, those listening haven't heard it. His handle is at Mr. Longshore. He's a dad, a QB method coach, 20 years, building quarterbacks through structured curriculum, defensive mastery. Anyways, he had a really long statement. I'm going to read parts of it. I understand why people are uncomfortable with the Sorsby situation. Betting on sports, serious, connected to your own team, creates an obvious integrity concern. Nobody has to minimize that. When a player becomes, but he said, there's another part that you should be honest about. When a player becomes part of your program, he becomes part of your family. That does not mean you excuse everything. It does not mean accountability disappears. It means you do not abandon him the second the situation becomes difficult. So, difference between defending the person and defending the mistake. Texas Tech is in an impossible spot. Deep down, they may have hoped the final ruling would remove the decision from their hands, that you would have gone through all this and he would have been ruled ineligible, and then you would have been able to have a clean outcome, break from there, move on. But now that the court has ruled that he is allowed to play, that changes the structure. If Texas Tech turns its back on him now, what message does that send to every player and family they recruit? That we will fight for you until the pressure gets too loud, that we will call you family when you're producing, but distance ourselves when standing beside you becomes inconvenient. Accountability and loyalty are not opposites. You can believe justice should be served. You can believe the integrity of the game matters. You can believe gambling violations deserve real consequence. You can also believe that a program should stand by its people through the full process, not just through the easy parts. That is the hard part of family. You do not only fight for your people when the optics are clean, you fight for them through the good and the bad while still demanding accountability, treatment, discipline, and truth. Texas Tech may not like the position it's in. Most programs will not. But once he's legally allowed to play, abandoning him strictly because of social pressure would send its own message. And that message may be harder to overcome than the controversy itself. So,
yeah, Tech's absolutely in an impossible position. And I don't like it. I don't like that they're stuck with this, but that's where it is. And they're going to be stuck with it unless he decides to sever it somehow, or unfortunate events lead to some sort of violation of the injunction that we covered earlier. I don't want that either, but I get why people are upset. I absolutely do. I mean, like I told you, I'd feel the same way. I really think I would, because I would not take 30 seconds to read about a quarterback at Arizona State having an issue and just think, okay, well, obviously they shouldn't be playing football because that's against the rules. But the NCAA has no leverage here because he is not an employee of the NCAA. And that was something you brought up earlier, that volleyball coach obviously was. And so they could do things and they could enforce them. But because of the NCAA's own preferences, he is not an employee. And therefore, I think that gives a lot of these cases a lot of leeway for someone to fight and say, well, how can this organization stop someone from doing something based off of what? Did they sign to, are they employees of this? Or no, they're not. They are a volunteer, basically, who is playing for an organization. I do hope, with McGuire's comments about being concerned about Sorsby, not guaranteeing that he will be playing, not just assuming that, well, obviously he's going to start game 3. That I like to hear that. I like to hear that they are considering that, maybe there will be some leeway there for him, maybe physically, maybe even reading the room, seeing how some of the other guys are doing. 2 games into the season, I know you don't know a whole lot 2 games, but they will have at least played one on the road by then. But I really do hope, and I genuinely do, that all of the folks who are, just adamant supporters of mental health right now, that when mid-September comes around and it's a possible top 25 matchup against Houston, Friday night, nationally televised game, and Sorsby's not going to start because his head's not right, he's not ready, that you're just as supportive now or then as you are right now. So I hope that is genuine and that the fans don't fall back on some of the stereotypes that I have witnessed personally when it comes to mental health, and kind of just sweeping it under the rug and thinking you just got to pull yourself from your bootstraps and get going. So if that's the case, if he's not on the field until game 4, game 5, because of that sort of thing, give the man some grace, because you're full of it right now. Let's hope, well, you're full of something. A lot of you are, but let's hope that you're full of grace in late September, early October, if he still hasn't started yet, and that's something that you'd really like to see at that point. But anyway,
well, and to that point though,
so many places to go with this.
Just really quickly before we wrap up on Sorsby, like, okay, so say you get to that point where he's eligible to return, but not mentally ready, right? Like, so you're holding him out because he's not ready to take on the starter. Then you're gonna hear from all sides, right? Your teams, your fans are gonna be moaning about, like, you put us through all this crap for the summer to stand behind him, and finally, he's able to play, and you're holding him out. Then you're gonna get the pushback from everybody else about, oh, they're only doing this because they were trying to obey the temporary injunction, but also they caved to the public pressure. Again, like, no matter what happens, Texas Tech is going to be the bad guy, and not like in we're going to be the heel, we're going to be the villain, but like legitimately, it's going to be like the death of the sport is going to come because of what Texas Tech is doing, which one I think is hyperbolic, right? Like, Texas Tech is not. We're not the catalyst for any of this.
College football's supposedly been dying for the last 15 years in a row, and it's just bigger and bigger than ever.
Yeah. The other thing I would love to see happen, if and when, there's some kind of public confirmation that we're going to ride with Sorsby, all the people, the podcast, the media people that immediately said, oh, the Big 12 is wide open. Like, BYU, Houston, Utah, they're all going to step in and win this thing. The second that he was announced that he was going to be out for treatment, okay, he's back. If that's where we're going, you'd be like, you know what? That was a fun couple of weeks. No, it's going to be Texas Tech versus everybody else, as it should be. But they won't. They've had another few weeks chance to dunk on Texas Tech and to doubt us and push back where they think, because, like, oh, they bought their conference championship win, and they tried to do it again, but now it's going to be literally anybody else. I heard people making a case for Baylor now that Sorsby was out. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are grasping at straws.
Well, and right. There's also the other side of that coin was, even our own fans were saying this when it was first announced. Well, it's not the end of the world. Texas Tech still they don't have to have Sorsby to win the Big 12. And, his value is, his value to Texas Tech varies depending on what point you're trying to make. I've seen that over and over from our fans and from other fans. So which one is it? Is Tech a shoe-in when he's playing, or do they have no chance when he's playing, or does it matter who they trot out there? They could just have, run Wildcat the whole game, and they're just going to go 12-0, baby. I mean, I don't know.
You could run Kirk Francis every game.
Yes. It just depends on who's saying what, and that's just the world we live in, where there's no gray area. It's just no, everyone's against me, or we're dealing in absolutes. It's like Siths and whatever. Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Absolutes. Yep.
That's where we're at.
So he still has another week and a half, almost 2 weeks, if he wants to self-select a move onto the supplemental draft. He has until the 22nd to at least put forth his application for that process. So we will most likely not have another episode before then, but who knows?
We will be monitoring the situation.
Be monitoring, just like all of you will. Hitting refresh on all of our favorite podcast feeds and Twitter outlets that have all the news for us. But all right, that's about as much fun as I could spare for Sorsby.
Me too. You want me to talk for a while? I can talk about some NBA and some queen bees.
Yes, sorry, I was reading a comment. I don't think I understand it from LBBE8J. I liked the tennis softball game they had. I'm not sure what that's referring to, but yeah. So sorry, we can do the Queen Bees or the Spurs first.
We'll go Spurs because it's
Go Spurs, go.
It's especially topical.
So down here.
Yeah, this is. I bet you do. Yeah, there's a lot of Spurs fans down there. It's Thursday the 11th. The Spurs had the largest lead in finals history last night, the 10th, in New York, Game 4, going into halftime.
I feel a slight amount of responsibility here for this.
You absolutely should not. You should not.
Because I texted Michael. They were coming out of halftime and starting the second half, and I was like, and I texted him like, "What is happening in New York?" Because I saw the spread, and I was like, and then they showed the graphic that it was like the third largest lead ever in a finals game. In the sense that like you would think a finals game would not be a 30-point lead. But that what is happening question turned out to be very relevant all second half.
Yes.
But for a different reason.
Yeah, my wife was asking me because I've been watching all these playoff games and so she saw the score at halftime. She'd been to a movie and she came back and how are they doing? I said, well, they're up by like 27 right now. She's like, oh, and just kind of like poo-pooed it. I said, no, I have watched the NBA for 25 or so years. But more than that, it was like almost 30. So probably late 90s was when I really started getting into it. And I have seen plenty of this type of stuff. You know, I've seen the Spurs blow like a 22-point lead. I think it was against the Clippers. I forget who it was. I've seen the Spurs come back from leads like that. You know, you see it all the time, especially in the playoffs. And I just thought, I don't know. It could still get a little hairy. And it seemed like it was. And then the Spurs would bounce back just a little bit. But man, just absolutely caved, collapsed, choked, all the adverbs you can think of. The only time the Knicks led was with 1.2 seconds left after that tip in, and they led by 1. I don't know what to make of this. So they're like the Spurs are like 2 plays away from being 3-1 in this series, but instead they're 1-3. I like that they beat the Blazers. They took care of the T-Wolves, took down the Thunder dramatically in a Game 7, opened it with a double overtime thriller. The Game 7 was in Oklahoma City. That felt really good. I really disliked the Thunder. I don't really dislike the Knicks. That's the other problem. They play basketball. They seem to play real basketball, not the I'm going to fall down every time I take a shot kind of basketball.
How long did you leave the broadcast on after the game was over last night?
Oh man, I couldn't have turned it off fast enough. I was standing standing at the TV and I went to it and found the button on the TV to turn it off.
Because I was going to ask you what your thoughts were on watching Kevin McCullough celebrate on the court with the Knicks.
What?
Yeah.
He's on the Knicks?
Like, no, he was in street clothes. It was like, what is his connection? And for a hot minute, I was like, I recognize that face. Who is that? And it took me a while to figure out, oh, that's Kevin McCullough. What's he doing there?
Well, Terrence Shannon Jr. is on the T-Wolves. And
yes, he actually, McCullough does play for the Knicks.
So does Jeremy Sochan from Baylor, who used to be on the Spurs, I think as of this season. I think that was like a mid-season trade or something. So he even got on the court a little bit Wednesday night. But
his last action, McCullough's last action
on the T-Wolves was...
Sorry.
No, you're good.
This delay sucks.
I'm giving you the green light. You go.
Sorry. I was going to say the last time he played for the Knicks was after almost a month off, but he played 25 minutes on April the 12th.
Well, that's crazy. I didn't.
Yeah, before that he played on the March 17th, March 11th, March 3rd, March 1st, and 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So.
Yeah, I had no idea at all. But now with Shannon, he was frustrating because I think he frustrated the Spurs in a couple of games and had a couple of really good games offensively. But he was taking some charges that just reminded me of probably how much people used to hate playing Texas Tech, because they were calling him. And it's hard to get a charge call in the NBA, but he was somehow doing it. And it was just obvious. I'm going to run over and stop and stand in front of a player, and they're going to call a charge. And they did. That was the stuff. That was the Chris Beard, Mark Adams special. That was really, it was our team doing it. So I could live with it, but I still hated it. Anyway, that collapse was just so epically bad that the Spurs play again on Friday. Nope, Saturday. I'm not going to plan to watch it. If I'm around, maybe I turn it on. I don't know. I may be done with the Spurs till next season. I may say see you in November, October, whenever it starts. I'll see when the NBA Cup starts, because that's kind of fun. Maybe if there's a Game 7, I'll actually turn it on. But man, that was just such bad basketball. Awful shooting selection. They kept thinking that I think they shot threes and missed in 8 consecutive possessions. They were shooting with 14 seconds left on the shot clock, 20. Bad turnovers. Just really crappy, terrible basketball. I feel like De'Aaron Fox, he hit one big shot, but then he had like 10 other things that were awful. And I wonder if he had to get an Uber on the way home along with Mitch Johnson. Because if you're on a 20-4 run, you wait until the 20-4 run is over, and then you call a timeout. Come on, man. Let's figure something out. Let's not allow that to just keep happening. It was just frustrating on so many levels. One of those things where you're like, credit to the Knicks, because they just kept going. And they were playing good basketball, and they were making some good shots. And Brunson is insane. He's a really good player. He's tough.
But I wonder which Texas NBA team let him go recently.
I wasn't going to bring that up. Sorry for you.
No, so I did a little bit of research. McCullough's on a 2-way contract, so he's ineligible for the postseason, but he is with the Knicks through that. All right, if they make it to a Game 7, I'll wake you up. But I'm sorry, man.
Yeah,
they looked like they were doing pretty well until they got to the Knicks, who are just unbelievably hot. I mean, until they lost Game 3, hadn't lost a postseason game yet, which is wild, or whatever it was.
The Spurs have had a double-digit lead in all 4 games and only maintained it once. Just that the Knicks are good. And Karl Anthony Towns, I think it was Game 2, was just like a supernova, especially in the first half. I mean, he was pulling stuff out of his bag I didn't know he had. He was just driving on Wemby. Just really impressive. So they've got some good players for sure. Obviously, I mean they've lost 1 game since April, and that was just this week.
Yeah, I watched more of this Game 4 than I watched of any other game so far. And maybe this is just old hat for those that have been watching this series or just familiar with the NBA and the postseason. It was fascinating to me as they were like doing all these crowd shots and all the celebrities that were in attendance.
Oh, well, even in San Antonio, they were Knicks fans, but games 1 and 2 in San Antonio, Ben Stiller was, I think, at both of them. I think Spike Lee might have come to one.
Spike Lee, Adam Sandler, John Calipari.
Oh yeah,
Taylor Swift.
the New York ones were insane. The New York ones were just Chalamet and Kardashian. I can't remember which one. Seinfeld, Larry David. It was just, I think Fat Joe. Looked like Fat Joe. I don't know. The SVU people, Law and Order SVU people. Mayor Bloomberg had a player land on his lap. Yeah, I mean it is pretty wild. I agree. That's been pretty nuts. But to see some of those same people in San Antonio is also nuts too. Like John Turturro, I think that's his name. Did you ever see Big Lebowski? Did you finally see it? He was the Jesus.
I've watched it once.
He's in a lot of stuff, but I was okay. Well, he's in that. He's in Severance. He's in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Bunch of stuff.
Is he in The Secret Window? Is he the?
I don't know if I know that one. Did you see the new Batman with Robert Pattinson?
Yeah.
I think he's like the crime boss.
Okay.
The Carmine, I don't know. But he was in San Antonio for the Spurs game. I forget which one, game 1 or 2. So yeah, they're back in San Antonio Saturday night. You know, the Lubbock Matadors play here locally Saturday night. That may be where I be. That might be where my family is. That might be better for my, like I said, really not making a joke about this, but that might be better for my mental health, is to take a break from the Spurs on Saturday, enjoy some Lubbock Matadors soccer with my family, stay off Twitter, maybe get a score update on the drive home.
Did I tell you that we have a professional team here in town? Corpus Christi FC. They're part of the USL League One.
Have you been to a match? Are you going to try to go to one?
Probably not. Although I did sit down with their president and owner and their marketing guys with our leadership team. They were trying to get us to sponsor them on some level. And our CEO is a huge soccer fan. He's actually, well, I don't know. Has Mexican heritage. I don't know if he was born in Mexico or if he was born in South Texas, but he's worked in South Texas majority of his professional time. Huge soccer fan. When they left, he was like telling us all that was wrong with what their system was set up and how we weren't going to get involved with it for X, Y, and Z issues. And I was like, things I would not have picked up on because I just don't know soccer issues and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. Well,
speaking of soccer, it's a perfect segue to
oh my gosh,
our beloved under 10 Queen Bees. I have a final update.
There's that in the World Cup. So we'll
the
do
actual
a
World Cup
here on soccer.
Well, yeah, we're doing this in according to importance. So Queen Bees first. Played in the championship, won their 2 playoff games, won their bracket, and on Sunday, May 15th, headed out to Burl Huffman to take on the Little Ballers. The Queen Bees were 8-0, undefeated on the season. Ballers. The Little Ballers in a different bracket. They were 7-0-1. They had 1 tie on the season, so really evenly matched team. On a hot, windy, dusty Sunday out at Burl Huffman, 98 degrees. It was a 2 p.m. first touch.
Ouch.
Couldn't have been more in the middle of the afternoon. Wind gusts, I'd say 25 miles an hour. So the refs actually, before the game started, implemented a mandatory 1-minute water break at the middle of each half, which I'd never seen them do. I don't know. We've been doing this for 6 years, and I don't think I'd ever seen them do that. But closely matched teams. Queen Bees came in with a 36-3 goal differential, very dominant this season. As always, the Little Ballers were 25-6 though on their goal differential. Nothing to sneeze at there. End of regulation, it was tied 0-0, Spencer.
Ooh.
Which meant penalty kicks.
PKs.
So penalty kicks For those of you who don't know, each team gets 5, and 1 snuck in against the beloved Queen Bees. And the goalie, bless her heart, is awesome. It's one of those things that 99 times out of 100, she would have been able to stop it. It just went right through her legs. But it's just kind of how the luck goes.
Oh. Yeah, well, hats off to those young ladies. I mean, shoot, in fewer seasons of baseball, we probably had more than 64 losses. I think we played 5 seasons of baseball. Still, yeah, but I think we were 12 or 14 game seasons. So we probably played 60 games. All right, we probably played 64, 65 games total. But anyways. All right. Well, let's talk World Cup. The other less important soccer event that's going on. Are you going to be watching any of the matches? Are you a soccer fan now? Or are you a World Cup fan? Because I'm a World Cup fan. Starts at 8. First touch. Yes, sir. This is the way. So, oh, nice. I was gonna say I oh nice. I was gonna say I have a Magellan. It's a white base, but the shoulder panel across the back is a Texas flag. Big fan of that one. It doesn't quite play the same with the World Cup, but well, it did. So I watched majority of the first match, Mexico South Africa, this afternoon, the opening match of the World Cup. They are also doing hydration breaks halfway between. If there were quarter breaks, halfway through the first half and halfway through the second half, they snuck in commercial breaks then. Now, granted, the Mexico team opening the World Cup at home in Mexico City, that environment was absolutely ridiculous. If you have a chance to even go watch the first few minutes of it on Hulu or you're on Hulu, you're on YouTube, or at least okay, or the highlights of it. You may not get the best feel for the just in-game atmosphere. It cracked me up though. So Mexico started off with possession of the ball, and they were it was a very stereotypical thing that Americans would be frustrated with. They were just holding on and just kind of prodding around for the first few minutes, trying to figure out how South Africa was going to respond to possession and on defense. The second South Africa had possession, boos and whistles, and it was like they just, as soon as South Africa touched the ball, they the crowd was all over them, just booing, and not booing their team for turning over the ball, because every possession that doesn't end in a score ends in a turnover. So it's not like you're going to boo your team for turning the ball over usually, but instantly starts booing and whistling, which is the negative sound noise that you would make. Mexico ended up winning 2-0. South Africa had two different players sent off on red cards, so they finished the game with 9. And 9 versus 11. There were times where the Mexico crowd was frustrated that Mexico, the team, wasn't more aggressive and scoring more. So it was 1-0. South Africa had a player sent off via red card. They scored another goal, but they had gotten not chippy. The crowd was restless. They were like, guys, you're up a player against a not good team. Bury them. And they scored a second goal. And then South Africa was pressing and they were being a little too aggressive. Then had another guy sent off via red card. And Mexico was perfectly fine just sitting back and running clock essentially. Their fans were not having it. No, go score every time you touch the ball. Essentially, it was fun. It was wild. They played at is it Estadio Azteca? It's just a fantastic environment. I think they renamed stadiums like that for the World Cup, because I think they had to. Hold on, because I think they had to rename AT&T Stadium in Dallas to something like that to remove the sponsor. Yeah, probably not. Yeah. So and they actually had to cover the logo on top of the stadium, or not the logo, the word mark. Mm-hmm. No, they for sure had people covering AT&T on the roof of the stadium. They had almost 81,000 people. It's high. It's no, I know that they've talked about it before. It's significant. Mexico's. Oh my gosh. And then some, isn't it? Let's see. 72-20. Oh, sorry. Officially 71-65. Yeah. But you were talking about it. U.S. first touch, their opening match will versus Paraguay tomorrow night, Friday night, SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. So I'm sure just like the Mexico match, it's going to be unbelievable environment tomorrow night. Then, oh yeah, do you see? Do you see the pictures and videos of the Argentinian team practicing in Jordan Hare, Auburn? It's like they had like Auburn fans taking pictures of Messi. Hey, speaking of rain, it's raining here now too. Um, so is there a team like outside of the U.S. Is there a team you're going to pick up and follow? Like you're going to root for? Because the U.S. is like they're not picked to be contenders in this tournament. Is there somebody like you're gonna pick up on like as a favorite? Like I'm gonna follow them. They are. I think they're the overwhelming favorites to win it. Yeah. Yeah, so they made the finals last year versus Argentina, and it went all the way to penalty kicks. I say last year, I meant last World Cup. Um, so European teams, okay, teams that are going to be good: Brazil, almost always; Germany, the Netherlands, the Orange, love them. Except when they, Belgium historically has been pretty good. Spain, the South American teams, Uruguay, Argentina. Portugal has Cristiano Ronaldo, but he's like 40 something years old and like they're playing him almost like a detriment. Well, as in like he's not as athletic as the guys that they could be playing in his spot. Um, England is going to be up there. Croatia has been tricky. So I'm not going to root for France, although they're going to be pretty hard to beat. Germany, having lived there for a time, is going to be up there for me. The Germany's first game is in NRG, and I thought about looking into it, but it's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars for this match. They're facing out with Curacao, and they're like a -3,000 favorite to win this game. And even then, like overwhelming favorites, $1,000 to go watch this match. Like, you know what? I'll just turn the TV on. I'm fine. So the Ghanaian team, Ghana, has been tricky to get past, especially for the Americans. No, no. They're in the Group L with England and Croatia. No. Well, so the top two teams from every group are going to make it through. So like Morocco's going to make it through probably regardless. The top 8 3 seeds are going to make it through. I'm trying to look like who else. It's either Sweden or Norway has like one of the best players. But you can root for New Zealand. Group G. Well, I don't. Not to make it political. They're a 4 seed, but they've got Egypt and Iran in their group. How do you want to feel about that? If you want to avoid that at all costs, uh, the K Waste. Anyways, all right, that's a lot for. Let's wrap this up with what we learned. We got plenty to talk there as we were hitting 2 hours. Um, it says food quick hits. I will be quick. When the family was in town, they had a couple of boxes of things that we wouldn't normally keep in terms of snacks. One was Nutter Butters or Nutty Buddies. Yeah, the wafer ones. Anyways, the kids hammered those. Like those are so good. Ones they didn't hammer, they left a bunch of it. I keep picking these off one at a time. One per day. Star Crunch. When's the last time you had a Star Crunch? It's the caramel, man, but they are so good. They were so. If we had any like this in the house when we were growing up, it was either Star Crunch or oatmeal cream pies. Mm. Mm. Yeah, those are good. I, I think a lot of the packaged ones that have like some kind of cake in them are going to be too dry and crumbly for me. Okay, the Christmas zebra cakes are pretty dang good. Oh yes. Hmm. Sorry, and you're welcome. Hmm. Nice. And I will continue to hammer this because the price on these things are just ridiculous. You have to catch them on a sale at United. You can't buy them full price. For whatever reason, Walmart's been doing the flavors have been on sale randomly. Like they'll typically be like $8.50 or $9 for a 12-pack, which is just stupid. But every now and then they'll run like, okay, all of the flavors are going to be $6 at the 12-pack. Well, shoot, twist my arm then. I guess I'll go buy them on sale. Not that $6 a 12-pack is that good of a sale. But yeah. The only thing, the blackberry, I my least favorite, but because cherry's like one of their main flavor profiles, anyways. Nice. Yeah. I'm still trying to find their protein, their added protein pints. I want to give those a shot. But all right. Nice. All right, Michael, are you a watch wearer? Do you wear watches? Do you wear the same watch every day? Or do you have like a small rotation? Do you collect watches? I feel like I should know this about you and I don't. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Same. Yeah. Well, here, let me tell you why I ask you. I had an unfortunate situation in the ocean this weekend where I lost my watch. Um, it was in a band that just holds the watch. It wasn't attached to the watch. Like, you know how like a watch with like a leather strap, it like slides in and kind of locks at the ends. The band I was wearing, you just pop the face in and out of. I've never had a problem with it popping out before. Never been loose or whatever. I was playing with Hayden. I was lifting him up a bunch of different times. And then I just looked down and my band is on my wrist. The watch is gone. But like we're waist deep in water. And it was like, oh, that thing's gone. Like I felt around for it, but like feeling the current on my legs, like this thing's gone. I that had so poor service that when I got back to my phone on shore, I pulled up like Find My, and it was like your watch was here, like where I was standing 29 minutes ago. I was like, well, that doesn't help me. So, um, so I lost my watch. And I had two different sets of straps. So I had like the black one that was more sporty, and then I had brown leather. So it was kind of I was able to switch it out and dress it up, dress it down. I I'm looking for recommendations. I don't really want to replace and go back with an Apple Watch. I had an SE, which to those unfamiliar, it was like a base model. I don't need the EKG, the blood oxygen. I don't need you. I don't need you tracking my sleep. Before I got an Apple Watch, I actually had a Fossil hybrid watch where it was like it was a normal quartz chronograph type of watch, but it had an app on my phone that the hands, when I got a notification, specifically a text message, it would point to a specific number on my hand, on the face, to say, oh, hey, you got a text message, it's from Samantha, or from this contact you assigned to this number. So it wouldn't tell you what it was, it would tell you who it was from. But I'm also like, I'd be okay with a traditional non-smart or hybrid watch. And I'm the millennial me. I've got a couple of Fossil watches in a cart that I'm looking at, that are, yeah. So like, yeah, I'd have to take them to a jeweler. And that was a problem with the other one, is that, like, the battery died on it. It's like, I gotta get this worked on, and it just wasn't a thing. Together, so those two watches in my cart, plus a watch band for one of them, was like $250. It's like, I'd spend this much on an Apple Watch, but now I'd get two watches. And I was like, I kind of like the idea of this and having more of a grown up and more sophisticated timepiece. Not that I'm a collector or watches or whatever, and I need to be some kind of fashion statement on my watch, but I felt the Apple Watch was kind of outgrowing it. So no. Yeah. Well, so one, I wasn't even this pared down version of an Apple Watch that had a reduced functionality set. I wasn't using all of it. And when I tried to use it, I just got frustrated. I was using the same couple of functions on it, and even then, it was so clunky and not user friendly. I was like, this watch is a few years old, but like I spent all this money on a smartwatch that actually it's more irritating. Like the user experience, the constant buzzing and dinging, and then when I try to use something on it, it being slow and delayed. It's like, I don't need all this. So like I don't need. That's why I'm like I'm almost decided that I'm not going to have a smartwatch, because when I had one, it just wasn't. I didn't jive with it. So Mhm. Oh, and that was the other thing that was so frustrating about this Apple Watch is because it was almost always on and it was almost always trying to track like heart rate and everything. I could get like 12 hours of use out of it, and then it had to be charged. Like it was an everyday thing. I could only wear it like when I put it on for my workout. I would have to take it back off on the charger while I got ready for work to put it back on, so it would last the rest of the day. Um, so it's like it doesn't even last a full day. So yeah, so I had the Apple Watch SE. It says the battery life was 18 hours, which if you had, yeah. All right. I've probably talked about this before. Uh, we're coming up at the end of our lease, so we're kind of evaluating what's next for us. With the prospect of having to move again. And I was looking through the kitchen lately. I was like, Michael, I have a lot of plastic cups. And I'm almost a little like embarrassed to share this. I have so many stadium cups. Like it was at one point I would get one per season per stadium I went to, like a Texas Tech football game or a basketball game or the Corpus Christi Hooks or the Midland Rockhounds. I have all these cups. But then after a few years of doing this, and we only keep one, I have boxes worth of these cups. And it's so stupid. Help. It could have been. We could have recorded like a different cup every time we've recorded this podcast, and it would have not reused a cup. Mm-hmm. I have 3 whipped cream cups. Yeah, I've no, I have 1 green and 2 orange. Ah, that was good. All right, that's all I had. Unfortunate run. Yeah, once the calendar flipped over to 2026, it's been a rough run for our sports teams. Yeah. Well, I don't know when we'll be back. I would say at the latest, fall camp. We'll be firing it up for previewing the upcoming season there in mid to late August. Maybe something will bring us back before then. I don't know. We'll see. We'll check it out. But Michael, it's been fun. Thanks for hopping back on. I know it's been a minute. Anything final shots you wanna take? Send across the bow. Alrighty. Well, with that, we're gonna wrap it up. We'll be back at some point to recap whatever happens with Sorsby, the World Cup, get us reset and resituated for the 2026 football season. But until then, have a great summer. For Michael, I'm Spencer. I'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at Punt Suck, and Michael at Michael_LVK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.